Welcome to Charts Today. My name's David Linton, and today's edition for Monday, the 13th of April, comes to you from London. And all eyes again on crude oil. This is, the real measure of markets at the moment. News out of the Middle East this week was impasse. We're back above 100, both on Brent and on WTI. So, in fact, we've dropped below 100 on WTI, but we are in that range again where crude oil prices are moving back towards the top of the range. Remembering we're in the 90, 110 range, and 100 is roughly the middle of that range. I put my energy morning call out to clients this morning. We're bullish on crude oil with that move. It's got upside targets there, and the key thing is we're seeing those targets. This is the 60-minute chart, and the key thing is that target. We're just waiting for it to be activated. We can look at the 10-minute chart and see whether we get a little bit of a heads up there, or even the 1-minute chart. And the price action is going to be critical today. That's really what we're looking for. Remembering that you can be looking at these targets in Updata. I'm running here on LSEG. So, I'm running the LSEG data into Updata, but also I run on top of Bloomberg. So the same chart here, but it's just Bloomberg data. And you can see that the charts are the same, just the data is coming from a different place. And of course, you can be running the targets in Bloomberg as well. So we can look here at that same unactivated target on Brent crude. This is the place to watch it. And so do take a trial in Bloomberg and see the targets for yourself. It's really quite key. Just watching that price action. We are seeing gas prices in Europe up quite strongly as well, but we are still seeing the price action has been relatively falling, not as clear-cut as crude oil. And US gas prices certainly have been in a pretty clear downtrend with downside targets. So the energy mix is still very challenging, and of course we analyze it for our institutional clients every day, and that's in that report, the energy report, and then we also produce our weekly report on soft commodities as well, so all the charts and commentary there. So coming back to the major markets, first of all we look at the dollar. We're seeing here that the dollar index, that downside target on the 60-minute chart, we're in a new trading range between 98.50, 99.20. That's the new range. If we look at the daily chart, we can see the medium term, thinking weeks ahead. We're still waiting to see which way we break here. And of course, the long-term chart, we are seeing that range breaking. I'm using the clouds and the targets, remembering there's lots of free resources on the Updata website. You can just go to the Updata website. There's under videos, you can go to the LSEG masterclasses, and if you go right back to the beginning, what's your time horizon? All these are free to watch there on the Updata website. And of course, our intensive 2-day training course, which you can do online or in-house, is also a big factor. But there's lots to watch there, so do make sure you're understanding everything that I'm going here. And of course, if you're watching Charts Today on the Charts Today page, always worth, from my perspective, if you're watching on YouTube, just to give a like or a thank you or a comment. I really do value those as well. And if you're not signed up to Charts Today already, it's at chartstoday.com. So looking at the dollar, we are in this real position of just waiting to see which way we break. 98.50 is the key level to watch there. And that means we are also looking at the dollar yen. This 160 level is really quite key, 160 and a half. And if we look at the daily chart here on the dollar yen, you can see this is a real issue. And I still think Japan is sort of like the known unknown. It's this chart on the yen. If we look at the Japanese stock market, that has given a downside target, and we are just playing with the cloud. And perhaps the one that I talk about the most is this one of Japanese bond yields. And we see here that we did touch 250 overnight on the Japanese bond yield, and I think it's only a matter of time before we're above 250. We've got upside targets there. We activate a new upside target to 279. That's 13% higher. Remembering that Japan is the most indebted country in the world, so this will be very significant if we do see those that bond yield breaking above 250. US bond yields, we're seeing here a rise there. Again, these targets are all embedded, and you basically just can't ignore them. UK is up another 0.5% this morning, having sort of pulled back. We're pushing back towards the target, and we are just seeing this whole Middle East uncertainty is starting to have a longer effect on markets, and it's very much a case of slow pain before something dramatic happens, and we've just got to keep an eye on the charts. And quite incredibly, we are seeing equity markets holding up relatively well. I mean, the Nasdaq, we do still have this downside target. We have struggled to get back through the cloud. Again, you can be watching that on Bloomberg. I look at the Nasdaq target there on Bloomberg, it's the same target. That target is embedded until we break to a new high. The previous high was in October. We need to break to a new high to deactivate that upside target, to negate it. So the really key thing is that is hanging over us. And of course, you can be watching the targets in TradingView as well. This is here's what Brent crude with the targets. You can see that same unactivated upside target on the 60-minute. And interestingly, here's one I've been looking at this morning is aluminium, which has got a big upside target. So you can be using the targets in TradingView, in Bloomberg, and of course in UpData, running on lots of different data services. And if I look at the data services in UpData, there are dozens of them. So you can be running these targets pretty much on anything you're looking at. But key point is we're seeing the futures down today, down 0.5% on the S&P. US market is looking more bearish based on the news flow coming out of the Middle East and the failure to reach a decision there. Looking at the European markets, the FTSE's down a little bit. The DAX also down just 1%. And if we look in Asia, most markets were down. And we look at the Sensex, that's hit a wall and struggling. And of course, the key things coming out of the Middle East are things like urea. This is the fertilizer. This is urea, the April contract, and you can see here we're back to where we were in the Russia-Ukraine war, and that gas been an essential part of that, and a lot of urea coming out of the Middle East. So that's a really key thing there to watch as well. Looking at the last of all, just looking at some of the other things, gold, we are seeing we're waiting to see if we activate this upside target on the 60-minute chart. We're also waiting to see, we need to break above the 48.40 level to activate that. So that's going to be quite key. US stocks, on Friday, quite a lot of red there on the screen. So, we had some of the tech stocks, Nvidia, looking back towards that critical level there. We've got two new upside targets on the short-term chart, which would take us to new highs for Nvidia. But on the medium-term chart, we still do have this downside target hanging over us. So it's a very mixed picture there for Nvidia, and be interesting to see how they perform in today's falling market. But you can see most stocks were bearish, and so some pretty big falls across the board there for US stocks. And we take a quick look at UK stocks this morning. We have got some quite good performances, but we are also seeing some pretty big fallers. EasyJet, airlines, we've had a bit of a splurge, a recovery, but we are still below the cloud, and this is the key thing. We see a lot of false dawns. IAG, another airline stock, and the key thing is that we are just seeing the mixed performance. Keep an eye on those clouds and the price targets. Until tomorrow, happy charting. Bye for now.